Welcome to the eCommerce podcast with Matt Edmundson, a show that brings you regular interviews, tips, and tools for building your business online.
Well, hello and good evening. Welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmundson. It's great to have you. It's great that you're here. Great that you're listening to the show or indeed watching the show on Facebook Live or however you're joining us. It's great to see you. Great that you're here. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope you're having a good start to the week already. We're actually recording this on a Monday. If that wasn't clear. It is Monday evening here in the UK, and this is the e-commerce podcast with me, Matt Edmundson. And in tonight's show, we are going to be chatting to the amazing and wonderful Tim Hughes, and we're going to be getting into social selling, what that means for us as people, what it means for us in e-commerce. I'm going to grill him about sales and all kinds of stuff because he has got fascinating background, let me tell you. And all that is going to come up and more in this show. So welcome. Now, if you are yet to subscribe to the show, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, because why would you not, right? We put out regular content, free, good stuff for you to listen to, all about e-commerce, how to set up, run and grow your own e-commerce business. This stuff is great. And I love doing the interviews because I always learn stuff as well. So grab your notebooks, grab your pens. And if you are joining us on Facebook Live as we're recording, you can throw your questions or thoughts into the comments and we will respond to those at some point during the show. Maybe during the recording, it may be at the end. We don't know. It depends what your questions are. But make sure you throw those in and say hi on the Facebook Live. Let us know where you're from. It'll be great. And if you don't know, if you're listening to this in your car or wherever you get your podcast from, when we record the interviews, when I do these interviews, we stream it live on Facebook at the same time, which is it's just fantastic. And so regulars to the show will know this. We've been doing this now for, season 2. We're now on season 3. So we've been doing this a little while, and I really, really like how this is working. So you can just go and connect with us on Facebook Live, sign up to the notifications. So whenever we do go live, that little bell pings on your Facebook feed, and you will get notifications that we are indeed live, and you can come in and join the conversation with the guests, which is always fab. So you can do that. So welcome to the show. Great to see you here. And if you are listening to us in a car, make sure you're safe because, you should, right? So as I said, this show is for all the e-commerce entrepreneurs out there looking to set up, to grow, to develop, to understand e-commerce a whole lot more, because at the moment, especially at the moment, digital and online businesses seem to be the way forward. And let me tell you, I don't know how your business is doing. Mine is killing it right now. It is doing so well, and it's great. I was saying to Tim before the show, this is not a strategy I would have written down. It's not a strategy I would have planned, but as a result of the pandemic, as a result of the lockdown, there seems to be a lot more interest in what we're doing online, which is fantastic. So it's great to see that. Now, before we pull into the show, the wonderful Tim, and get into this whole conversation around social selling, is it just a buzzword? Or is it the next thing in marketing? Has it actually been around for a while? What does it mean for all of us in e-commerce? All these things we're going to get into in a little bit more. Before I bring Tim on, let me just take a few minutes to thank the show's sponsors. The first sponsor being Curious Digital. Let me give a big shout out to one of our show sponsors, Curious Digital. You know what? I love its flexibility. It's such a great platform. You know how when you start out, you might typically use an online platform because they're cheap, they're easy to use, super accessible. But you know what? They aren't that flexible. And as your business grows, you end up moving to an agency, right? Because that's just what you do. And at some point, you're going to have this nightmare to deal with, and it can be incredibly expensive. And the thing for me that I love about KD is it will grow with you. You can start out on the platform easily, and as your business grows, then KD will adapt with you. Now, I don't know of any other platform that does all of that. So if you're in the market for a new e-commerce platform, make sure you follow the links from mattedmundson.com. Take advantage of the offers that they've got for you, and let me know what you think. A big shout out to another show sponsor, the Lightbulb Agency. These guys basically do those bits of e-commerce that you either don't want to do or don't have the skills or expertise to do, right? It's a great service. Let me tell you, these guys do fulfillment, e-commerce marketing, content creation, customer service, product research. I mean, the list goes on. So if you need help with your own online business, you're looking for ways to grow, and you need some help to get there, do get in touch with them. And again, just follow the links from today's show notes. Head on over to mattedmundson.com and you can follow the links to the Lightbulb Agency. We'd love to put you in touch with those guys. So there are two show sponsors. They're amazing people. And of course, if you want any of the links that I talked to you about in tonight's show, if you want the links to the sponsors, if you want the links to all the things that Tim's going to share about and want to get in touch with Tim and all that sort of stuff, we will make sure all of that and the notes from tonight's show are in the show notes on the website. So head on over to mattedmundson.com and you will be able to see those, search out the podcast, download the podcast notes, and check out those links. Everything will be on there for you in one easy and convenient place. Okay, all that aside, let's talk to our guest. Now, Tim is the co-founder and CEO of DLA Ignite. Sorry. And it says here in my notes, and from my conversation with Tim, which I really enjoyed, he is an expert in social selling. His business is all about this idea of social selling. So I wanted to get into it. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to figure it out. What does it mean for me? What does it mean for my e-commerce business? And this is what we're going to get into right now. So without further ado, let me turn up Tim's microphone and let me press this magic button. Tim, hello, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, Matt. Yeah, no problem at all.
Wonderful.
Really excited to be here.
That's great. I appreciate you being here. Now, one of the things I should have said right at the start in the intro, which I didn't, is you actually host your own podcast, Tim Talks. Is that right?
I do. Yeah. It's exciting. I mean, it's nice to be on the other side of the table, so to speak.
I was going to say, I felt slightly nervous doing the intro because I'm thinking, oh, there's a professional here in the background listening to me. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you being here. And I guess the podcast you do, Tim Talks, what's your podcast about? What's the show about?
Well, we started talking about social selling, and I got various interesting people on to talk about various aspects of that. But over the recent 3 months, I've actually been doing two things. One is helping people I know, giving them some visibility, and getting to talk about specialist subjects that they have, but also covering subject matter that would help people in today's economic conditions. So, for example, last week on Friday, I interviewed someone who's a headhunter. Okay. So we went through about how to get a job.
Oh, wow. Which is very relevant right now.
Absolutely, yeah. And, there's a whole bunch of people out in the market that either may not have lost their job before or have not seen a recession. Yeah. And not seen the sort of impact that it can have. So, it's just like this podcast, it's a free resource. Mm-hmm. And we hope that, if it helps one person, then it's time well spent.
Fantastic. And that show, Tim Talks, people can find it anywhere. If someone's listening going, you know what, I really need help finding a job right now.
It's on YouTube. The best, we get most of our traffic from social. Mm-hmm. So either my Twitter, you'll find the stuff on my Twitter feed, or on my LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fantastic. And we'll link to those in the show notes, and we'll come back to that later at the end of the show. You can explain to people how they get in touch with you.
Yeah.
So do check out Tim's podcast, Tim Talks, and listen to that, especially, with some of the stuff that he's just talked about. Very good timing. So Tim, that's kind of what you do now. Well, we're going to get into what you do a little bit more later, but where did it all start for you?
Well, my background is sales.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in sales for 25 years, and it was my background has always been new business sales.
Okay.
And I was working at a very large US software house back in 2015, and we're on-premise company, trying to get to move towards cloud and SaaS.
Yeah.
We were used to 18-month sales cycles, and we took on a sales guy from a competitor, Financial Force, and he said in a meeting, we close on the first meeting. So we're used to 18-month sales cycles, and we find out that our competition are basically closing on the first meeting.
Wow. That's a big difference.
It is a big difference, and there's a gap there.
Yeah.
So I went to my sales VP and said, we've got a problem. And we decided to take the sales force through a complete business transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So we did things like we tried to get, you never get everybody doing it, but we tried to get people to give up on PowerPoint, because there's so many salespeople turning up and they do a pitch on PowerPoint. And so what we got, and there's a story flow through it. And one of the things that we did was we taught them storytelling.
Okay.
Rather than coming up with facts, which is quite often and something that's product related. And we also taught them very rudimentary social selling, which back in 2015, is more about, connecting with people and that, rather than doing some of the cool things that you can do today.
Yeah.
So, and off the back of that, as I found with the power of network, in fact, I'm talking to you today through the power of network,
mm-hmm.
Was that what happened was that somebody, my co-author for my first book, came to me. We had a cup of coffee, and within 3 months, I got a book deal.
Wow. Okay.
So in 2016, my first book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, came out.
In 2016?
Yeah, and it still sells today.
Wow.
And, it's designed as what we decided was that we weren't going to write about a journey, or write about how to write your personal brand, or write about the technology. It was going to be a framework that salespeople can use to get into social selling.
Okay.
And last time I looked, there was 80 5-star reviews on Amazon.
Wow.
All people generally saying it's changed my life. And that's how we designed it. And it's designed for salespeople, not marketers.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a meeting. Matt and I, we brainstormed every chapter. The first brainstorming session was in the evening. And I'd been to a meeting with the same sales VP that I talked about earlier on. And he leaned across the desk at me and pointed a finger, and he said, and I'm going to take out words beginning with F. He said, this social selling is all very well, but where's the leads?
Mm.
And I was telling Matt this, and he thought that was funny. He said, what we need. And what we did was we used that as the point that whenever we did a brainstorm, if we thought it was getting too fluffy, too marketing, we said that saying to each other. And therefore we were able to say, right, how is a salesperson going to use this information to prospect and get leads? And that's how we wrote that's why we wrote the book.
Okay.
It's there as a handbook for salespeople to give them that base to enable them to prospect and get leads. And
so you wrote the book in 2016.
Yes.
And it's still relevant for today because everything moves on at a fast pace.
Yeah. So what we did is we didn't put anything in about the technology. So there's a lot of books out there like LinkedIn books. Mm-hmm. And as soon as LinkedIn changed the algorithm, which they kind of do nearly every month now, it means that they're out of they're now no longer of any use.
Yeah.
But what we did is that, we wrote this being very basic. So the people that are listening in today, obviously I'm biased about buying a copy, but obviously I recommend they do.
I would hope so, yeah.
And it's available on Amazon worldwide. But it's still, I've got people coming to me even today and saying, I've just read your book. Fantastic. So the managing director of BMW Park Lane read it and gave me a reference last November, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's a fantastic feeling seeing people getting something from it. Yeah.
So you went from this place of sort of a traditional sales person taking 8 months to close a sale, understanding that your competitors actually needed something a little bit different, well, they did something a little bit different, to then leaving that company and writing your own book on social selling, which was all the stuff that you kind of discovered along the way.
Yeah.
That's quite a fascinating sort of leap from one thing to the next, isn't it? Was that planned? Was that thought through, or was that just happenstance?
Well, I decided back around about then that I had enough of. I was selling accounting systems, and while the people were interesting, I decided I wanted to do something else. And I was trying to work out what it was, and then I was actually in a blogging on a blogging course, and the person said you need to when you're writing things, you need to have a superpower, something that you want to be famous for. And I suddenly sat there and I thought, social selling.
Okay.
And I realized at that point that what I wanted to do with my life was become famous for social selling. And I was going to leave the company I was in and set up my own company. And I've done all of those things.
Oh, wow. It's amazing the power of a vision like that, isn't it? Just to, have this sort of, it's a great question. What are you going to be known for? What was the question you asked? What's your superpower?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's about what is it that you want to be known for. And usually what happens is that people talk about, so for example, I remember saying this at my previous company, and the people that sold the human resources software said, well, I want to be famous for human resources software. And it's like, well, not really, because that just means that you're just another salesperson.
Yeah.
So what they started doing was that, they wanted to be famous for work-life balance or mental health or things like that, because what that enables them to do is to get into conversations with people, senior people, in the areas that they want to sell to. And we all know that conversations make sales.
Okay.
So an advert, a cold call, and an email don't make a sale. What happens is that they are there to drive a conversation, and it's the conversation that makes a sale.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is that we're using social as a means or a mechanism to create that conversation.
Okay.
And so all salespeople ultimately need to be in a situation where they know not necessarily what they want to be famous for, but their superpower, and it needs to be authentic as well.
So when you were sat there in the meeting and the guy said to you, what do you want your superpower to be? And in your head you went, yeah, social selling. What? Why? I mean, what was it about it that kind of drew you in?
Well, I was involved with it because we rolled out social selling across ultimately 4,000 people across Europe, and it was part of my daily life, and there was all the things that we did all the things wrong that everybody who tries to implement it internally does. Even to the point where my VP stood up and said, I've only got 60 followers. I might as well just walk down the office and shout the tweet out. And I said, well, yeah, actually, Mark, I think you should, because I said you'll get a better response.
Yeah.
And so all of the things that could go wrong did go wrong, and we were able to, when we started the company, we obviously were able to put all those things right. But I was involved in that, and it was new, and social was I was interested in social. And by then on Twitter, I'd got probably, I think, about 65,000 followers.
Oh, wow.
And so, there was clear momentum that I was doing something right, and that something was happening. So, I decided to move that way. And there's a lot of people who don't understand networks and the power of the network. They don't seem to realize the magic of it. And the way that you can use a network to place your ideas and get people to basically take those things and share them out. And the way that a network also brings things to you. So for the first 3 years of our company, DLA Ignite, we didn't have a business plan. and we didn't have one on purpose.
That's quite.
But
no, that's good. That's good. I'm not a fan of the business plan. I have to be honest. That's another story.
Because things would turn up. So a good example was 2017. I was on a podcast like this in the April with a guy called Doyle Bueller, he's a Canadian, but he's in Australia. And I was just talking to the guy, and you do these things, and they go out, and you never know kind of what happens to them. In July, basically, a guy came to me, Thomas Ross. He said, I run a sales team. I run a sales training company he was in Canada at the time. I run a training company, and I want to convert the whole of the training company to social selling. Can I resell your programs?
Wow.
And me and my business partner, Adam, went, I never thought about that. In fact, if we got resellers all around the world, that would be a really good idea, because we wouldn't need to open up offices. If I opened up an office in New York, I've got to pay for the office. I've got to recruit the people. They're probably the wrong people, and etc. It's so I'll get other people to take the risk. So that's what we did. We basically we spent the summer, July and August of 2017, with a franchise expert and a lawyer, IP lawyer. And what we did is we built a platform to allow people to resell our programs. And we now have 7 resellers around the world.
Oh, wow.
So it generates business while you're asleep,
which is a beautiful thing, as I say. That's what e-commerce is. It generates business while you're asleep.
Absolutely. And this is something where it's enabled us to scale. It's enabled us to scale with without having to give away any of our equity in the business. And it's actually got over a problem, because we were getting our clients coming to us and saying, what we want you to do is that we want you to implement your social selling methodology around the world. But what we want in Mexico, we want it delivered in Spanish by a Mexican. In Peru, we want it delivered in Brazil. It's got to be in Portuguese by a Brazilian. And it's like, well, we just don't have that capability. And they say, well, we don't want a UK or a US centric way of working. So that's what we've done is that we've actually built a global team. We've got 2 people in Singapore, 1 person in Hong Kong, 1 person in Peru. I've got 3 resellers in the States.
So that's how you've built your global team. You've built it with this reseller network.
Yeah,
that was a strategy that you guys sort of went down.
Yes, and the whole point was that we got that through Thomas seeing me on a podcast, and him basically saying, "I want to do this."
Yeah,
and that's the power of network, which is that it doesn't. If you're out there and you're having conversations and you're creating content, this is a great example. I'm not sitting on this podcast telling you DLA Ignite is a great company and we're market leaders and stuff like that, because you're not interested in that. You're here to actually listen to insight and be educated.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. If you think that's interesting, you'll go and look all that stuff up. Creating this content and putting it out on your network in an authentic, educational, insightful way is so powerful.
Is that how you?
That's why it brings stuff to us.
Is that how you would then define social selling? So if someone's listening, going, "This is great," but what exactly is social selling? So
I always define social selling as the reaction to as salespeople to the way that the buying process has changed. Okay. I mean, before COVID-19, even before then, we all have mobile phones, and we sit down and we get our mobile phone out, and if we want to buy something, you sit in we used to sit in cafes, and on a Saturday, and you go, let's go to Iceland next week. Okay, you look at the Airbnbs, I'll look at the flights. Now, you may not make a decision and decide to do that, but the fact of the matter is you're looking for stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're buying a 500 million outsourcing deal, you're still going to go online and search for stuff.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to the board of GlaxoSmithKline and for an outsourcing deal, and I'm going to stand in front of the board and say, this is what we ought to buy, I will have gone online and I would have searched for every single article about every single question that board could have asked me.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter whether you're B2B or B2C.
Yeah.
So BMW in the UK, just to give you an example, in November, through LinkedIn, they got 28 pieces of inbound, and they converted 14 of those. So if you
when
take,
you say they got 28 pieces of inbound, what does that mean exactly?
That's basically people on LinkedIn looking at the content that they've created and coming to them and saying, that's really interesting. I'm interested in buying a car.
Okay, so they put content out on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And as a result of putting that content out there, they got 28 leads.
28 leads.
And
yes.
they would have been qualified leads in some respects.
Yes.
If
so
the content
usually,
was good.
Yeah. So I use BANT, as in budget, authority, need, and timescale. If someone makes an inbound to you and says, I'm interested, they probably have a budget. They will probably have authority, or will get you to the person that has authority.
Yeah.
They definitely have a need, and they probably have timescale.
I like
So
that.
So what you're doing is that you know that if you get inbound, they're probably fully BANT qualified opportunities. And of those 28, they converted 14.
So 14 actually purchased cars.
Yeah. So 14, whether it's £50,000, €50,000, $50,000, it doesn't really matter. They generated 700,000 units of money based on zero marketing spend,
which is awesome. I mean, that's fantastic,
which is awesome. So your question was, what is social selling? Well, social selling, part of social selling is the fact that we've got people out there that are looking for stuff, and we can generate desire in those people by using content as a way of getting, so BMW, you put a picture of the new M4 that's just coming out, and it's got a nice grill on it. You go, okay, I'm really interested in those. When you get one in, I'd like to, put a deposit down. And that's what you're doing. What you're not. The mistake that people make is that they think is that what we've done is that we've sold and marketed in the same way for the last. Well, advertising has been around since 1930. Cold calling has been around since 1980, and email marketing has been around since 1990. So for the last 90 years, we've used the same marketing technique, which is buy my stuff, it's great.
Yeah.
And of course, no one believes you.
And no one cares, I think.
And nobody cares. Nobody cares about your product. Nobody cares about your service. Buy my product because you're great. It doesn't work. And the problem with it is that we're now empowered to go online and check it out. So if I tell you I'm using an iPhone, and if I say to you, this iPhone is the best mobile phone there is in the world, you'll go, well, okay, Tim, but I'm going to go on Google and actually look and see what else there is. Yeah. And you may go to, you may ask your friends on Facebook. I've got some chips in my car. So on the paintwork. So I actually asked on Facebook the other day, does anybody know a good company that sorts chips on cars? So you'll ask your friends. You may even go into discussion groups. And the thing is, what you'll do now is that you'll make your own decision based on the information of those people. So if you're using advertising, cold calling, or sending me spammy emails, what you're doing is that you're driving your buyers to buy from your competition, because those buyers are now. It's
a really interesting way of looking at it. Let's just say that again. So if you're selling with traditional methods, so with cold calling, with we'll call it spam, just cold emails, whatever you want to call it. Then you're forcing those people to check out your competition.
Yeah, because that's what we do. And even and before COVID-19, people kind of said, yeah, Tim, that's kind of interesting, but now everybody is online. What if we'd said right, we're going to have a weekend where everybody has to use Zoom, it would have all been very interesting, and half the people would have said, no, I'm not doing it. And Monday it would have been, we would have gone back to what we did before. But now even my scouts are online, the church is online, everything's online.
Every man
even
and
my
his dog's online, aren't they?
Even
and there
my
was some statistic in the Guardian you mentioned church. There's some stat in The Guardian which says 25% of people in the UK are now watching live stream services.
Yes.
25%. From
Yeah,
a population of 4% that went to church when it was... So the live things... Anyway, I mean, we could get into that all day long, but it's fascinating.
Even my mum's wine group, and she's 82, is online. And they've
Your mum's wine group?
Yeah, my mum's wine group.
I want to join that. That sounds amazing.
She's got a wine group, yeah, and they've even got a little supply chain of. There's a man that basically drives around and drops bottles off on the doorsteps.
Oh my goodness!
So they're able to drink the same glass of wine, and so someone does a presentation about the wine. So it will be about a particular winery in Portugal or something, and they're drinking the wine, and the one's giving the presentation. And she was told, no, we can't do that. There's no way. Everybody's online. So the fact of the matter with COVID-19, we now all have those attributes to go online. We've got those skills. Mm-hmm. We've gained them if we didn't have them, and we go online and we will check things out. Yeah. So if you come to me, as I say, and try and sell me something, I will go online
and you're going to do the research.
And check it out. Yeah.
You're going to figure that out.
And so what companies have to do, so to go back to your question, what is social selling? What they have to do now is be active on social, because that's where their customers are.
So instead of going to them with a direct cold call, you're now going to them on social, and you're giving them content which helps them to learn and understand. Is that the model now?
Yes. So you need to be part of conversations. Mm. So, this is a piece of content which people will watch and they'll go, I never thought about that. Yeah. I'll look him up.
No, it's great. I mean, we actually, a few years ago, we started our own, one of my websites sells skincare products. And so we decided, you know what, we'll do our own skincare brand, because why would you not, right? And one of the things that we did, we had one of our customer service girls. She was awesome. She basically spent the day on Twitter, and people would tweet, my skin's feeling a bit dry today. And so she would just respond to them on Twitter. She'd just using the search function, find these people who were complaining about dry skin, our ideal target customer, and say, listen, do you want me to send you some samples? See how you get on. And it was the easiest way to connect with people that had never heard of us.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're doing that? What you shouldn't do is go to them and say we're the best in the world or anything like that. Mm. What you do is you connect it to them, and as you say, I'll send you some samples. Yeah. I know, there's companies that search for things like, I've got a puncture, and that's I'm going to have a bad day, and someone will basically say, well, we fixed punctures. Can we help you out? And it's about having a conversation, just as we're having today. We're having free flowing, rather than, hey, have I got a product for you?
So, if I can bring this back to the world of e-commerce, someone's just they're out there listening to the show right now, and they're just about to start their e-commerce business, and they've got their head around the facts that maybe they should do Google AdWords. They've got their head around the fact that maybe they should do Facebook ads, or not, as the case may be. But what would your advice be to someone who is just starting out? They're doing this side hustle. They're going to build this online business. How would you have them? How would social selling work for them?
So you've got to remember that people are on social. They're not in adverts. Mm-hmm. And people nowadays generally don't like advertising. If you look at all of the research, and the problem that we have, we all have, is that we are hit by about 1,000 different messages every day. Yeah. So your message, you can pay for the best photography, the best copy. You can go and get supermodels, and you could hire you could hire all of the people from Love Island or whatever, and you'll still and you're still just one of 1,000 messages. Yeah. What you'll find, certainly with Google ads and Facebook ads, is that it's a very quick transaction. In effect, you've got to get someone's desire in about 1.3 seconds. Wow! So it's quite difficult to, it is, if you look at something like Instagram, it is, if you're selling like stoppers to make your chair not great along the floor, or something to stop the draft coming under a door, which is a low price, make a decision, put in your credit card, then that's generally okay. If you're outside of that, you may find it very difficult to get traction. But so as a business, we do no advertising at all. We do no cold calling at all, and we don't send any. We don't have an email list. We deleted it as part of GDPR.
Okay.
Everything that we do through social, and
so that's just you on social media, on various platforms, joining in conversations.
Yeah. All of the people in the business on social, and you've got to remember with advertising that I'm trying to remember the saying, which is that advertising is a tax on the unremarkable. And
I like that.
You've got to remember that where your clients are now is on social, because we've moved to the fact that we're now social as people. There's now 3.8 billion people active on social. So your clients are on social, and what they're looking for is we all hate salespeople. So what we're looking for is people coming to us and talking to us in a non-salesy way. So a bit like your example of, I've got dry skin today. Well, I'll send you some samples.
Yeah.
Or just, if we take LinkedIn, for example, just liking someone's post or saying, I read your article and I really liked these 3 things. Everybody likes a bit of flattery.
Yeah.
And having BMW's case, they have some great photography, and just putting that up and going, here's the new M4. Those are the things that you need to look at now.
And you can do that, I think, just listening to you talk, Tim, there, I think you can do that without actually, it seems, going back to your original chap that said he only had 60 followers on Twitter, should he go shout down the street? It sounds like what you're saying is you don't need that many followers in the first instance. You just need to go and find these people and start engaging with them on social. And that's not driven by how many followers you have.
No, it's not at all. So may I tell a joke?
Of course, as long as it's clean.
Yeah, okay, good. Right. You've probably heard it before, but there's 2 explorers going through the jungle, and they come across a clearing, and there's a tiger. And the first explorer starts backing out, and the second one takes off his rucksack and puts on running shoes or sneakers if you're in the US. The first one says, you can't outrun a tiger. And the second one says, I don't need to, I just need to outrun you.
Yeah.
And the mistake that people make is that they think they need to be Kim Kardashian and have millions of followers. Well, I'm never going to do that. Well, no, you're not. But that isn't the point. The thing is that 95% of the people on social are shit. So all you need to be is a little bit better than everybody else. And actually, it doesn't take a lot to be a little bit better than everybody else. And people are looking for people buy from people. And if you listen to the pundits today, is that after COVID-19, and especially during COVID-19, we're looking for human contact. We're looking for something more human. We're not interested in the brand, because even if you take Nike, they use Michael Jordan to sell their product. Yeah. So, Nike, which is one of the best known brands in the world, you may like it or you may hate it, but they still get Michael Jordan to sell it. Yeah. They still have a human there. So what we're looking for is a human connection. And what you need to be doing as an e-commerce vendor is being on social and creating that human connection. So, for example, you call this podcast, it's Matt's podcast. It's if you called it your company name, no one would tune in because they don't care. Well, in fact,
we changed it. We changed the name, Tim. It used to be called the Curiosity Podcast, and then everyone was like, "What's all that about?" So you spell it weird too. Why have you spelled with a K? So it's like, let's just change the name. Call it the eCommerce Podcast with Matt Edmundson. Kind of says what it is on the tin.
Yeah. And what people want, what we want are relationships with people. I work in the world of business to business, and the way we generally see it is, in most cases, what happens is the salesperson that you're going to buy from.
Yeah.
If you buy a pair of shoes, you probably don't. If you're going to buy a BMW, you will know the name of the salesperson because it's a considered purchase.
Yeah.
But people want to build those relationships with people.
So, I mean, in some respects, this is just old-fashioned common sense, isn't it? In the sense you build relationships with people, people buy from people, and get on well with people, and you'll do well in life. But it's sort of, I guess, it's the location. Is there a platform that you prefer socially, or is it all six of one, half a dozen of the other?
In terms of platform, the answer is always to go where your clients are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're B2B, then it would be start off on LinkedIn. If you sell IT, then you'd need to be on Twitter, and then you'd need to be on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
If you're B2C, then it's Instagram, Facebook, and probably TikTok now. They're the kind of the places that you would need to look at. Obviously, it depends on your demographic,
mm-hmm.
But they're the sort of places. But it is common sense. But as we quite often find that with common sense, it's not common and it's not sense.
Yes.
So, for example, if you take my LinkedIn profile, a lot of the mistake that people make is that they think that social is actually about interruption. So when I talk about interruption, advertising, cold calling, and email is all about interruption. You interrupt me and you broadcast your message.
Yeah.
And we all dislike that. And so a lot of people think that social selling or social is basically, I come onto social, I will interrupt me, and then they broadcast a message. So this is where you get people either sending you connection requests and then saying, hey, have I got a great set of tires for you or something. Or they even do it now in connection requests because they're probably even that lazy. And that isn't what social selling about. Social selling is actually about a permission and a relationship. So when you connect
so it's not
to
interruption, it's permission.
Yeah, in effect, what you're doing when you connect to somebody is you're giving them permission to end up having a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, if you connect to them and they pitch to you, you're quite in your rights to basically disconnect or even block them.
Yeah.
So anybody who comes to me, who pitches to me, will always get blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not, in my view, the way that we should be using social. What we do is that we use it to build a conversation with people and have a relationship with somebody because of the human connection.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing about LinkedIn or any particular social platform is that people see it as in effect, a one-dimensional screen, which is I post something and I then sit down and pray that something happens, rather than actually.
And that, to be fair, is everybody's strategy. The common sense thing, and it's not common. I come across it and it just feels like everyone's just put stuff out there because they feel like they need to put stuff on social. It's not been thought through. There's no strategy or thinking behind it. It's just like, I'll put it out there and hopefully it'll work.
Yeah. Yes, I've had salespeople come to me and say, oh, yeah, we do cold calling and we do emailing and we do social. Oh, that's interesting. So, oh, yeah, I come in the morning at 8:30 and I put something on social and then I make some calls. And it's like, so why do you put something on social? I don't know. I've just been told to.
Super helpful.
Yeah. Oh, marketing gave me it's like, yeah, but it's shit. Oh, yeah, but marketing told me to put it on there. So it's official. Yeah, but it's still shit. So, it's the thing about your social profiles, if you're in a sales capacity or even a marketing capacity, is that you should see it as a 3-dimensional way of you getting business. So your LinkedIn profile shouldn't be about your CV. It shouldn't be about your company and your products. It should be about you as a person. What's your belief systems?
Yeah.
What is it you do in your spare time? Because what that does is that brings you closer to me. If I know that you are a big film buff and these are your films, I've got something or a reason to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And so your summary title, for example, is the most visible piece of real estate about you anywhere in the world.
It is. Now, one of the things that, I mean, I know we talked about it in the pre-show, and it seems like a natural place to bring it up. One of the things that stood out about you, Tim, when we were looking for guests for the show, was your LinkedIn title. Now,
yes.
What it doesn't say is co-founder and CEO of DLA, which is just super boring.
Yes.
Do you want to tell people what your title says? Because it actually, when I read it the first time, I thought I wasn't reading it right. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of stops you in your tracks a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So my summary title. So your summary title is the most visible thing about you in the world, because if you Google yourself because Google loves LinkedIn, you'll see your photo if you have one.
Yeah.
It will show and it will show your summary title.
Yeah. And
your name. And so my summary title is "Should have played Quidditch for England,"
which I just thought was fantastic.
Now, I've closed business on the back of that. Now, there's not very many people that can actually say their summary title has enabled them to close business. You know, I'm sitting on this show probably because of it. It's something that creates curiosity in people. So the piece of business I closed, I asked the person, you know, so how did you find me? He said, well, actually, you made a comment on something on LinkedIn, and I saw that your title was "Should have played Quidditch for England." So I had to come across and look at your profile. I just had to go and look and see who this person was. And then he said, I read your summary, and my summary is in effect a story of partly of my life and why I've got there. He said, after I saw that, he said, I needed to contact you. And we've got, we've got salespeople who people basically go and say, I want to connect. Now, how many, most sales forces spend their lives running around trying to have conversations with people and trying to get people to like them, usually failing. And there's all this activity that goes top of the funnel, which is basically happening. And they're trying to go around and have these conversations. We have a process that actually gets people to come and talk to salespeople. So they get this. So this person said, I wanted to have a conversation with you and talk. And they said, it sounds really interesting what you're doing. He said, immediately he connected to me, and I said, well, let's go on a call.
Yeah.
And then we went through the process, and then actually that closed.
Yeah.
But having, moving from an environment where you have salespeople trying to go out and have conversations to people, and people are not interested, to having a situation where people are actually going to salespeople and saying, I want to talk to you, that's transformation.
Well, that's a big deal, isn't it?
And that's the difference from just saying, I'm just going to post something on social and hope something happens, to actually being in a situation where you're able to drive sales because people want to talk to you.
So when you post content on social, is the reasoning, the idea behind posting that content, then it's not just putting it out there for just putting it out there's sake. You have a purpose behind it. You have a reason.
Yes.
And that is to drive conversation with people.
So the reason why you do this podcast, and the reason why I do my podcast, is because that people, when they're buying things, they're looking for an expert.
Yeah.
So if you sit in, we've done some work with a waste management company, and it's fascinating because you talk to the salespeople, and they'll sit in front of you and they say, I know everything about waste management. In fact, my speciality is waste management from hospitals, syringes, stuff like that. I'm brilliant at it. There's nobody in the country that knows more than me about that. Oh, that's really interesting. And you go to their LinkedIn profile and it says nothing.
Okay.
So it's like, where's the evidence when you talk to a salesperson, they go, I don't know what to put in my LinkedIn profile. And they go, well, tell me about your journey. Well, I've done this, and I've done waste management for 20 years and I love it. And I know it's but I like to talk to people. And it's like, we're doing people a service getting rid of syringes and stuff like that. I said, you've just told me what should be on your summary profile. Oh, what did I say? Well, you just told me your story of your life about why you love this and what you get from it, and the fact that you actually like helping people and stuff. Oh yeah, I suppose I do. Rather than, I work for this company and they are great, and we are market leaders, which is, if you look at the competition, they all say that as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I always joke actually with it's a common thing around Liverpool where I'm based at the moment. You'd see all the developments, all the property developments. Every single one of them are luxury flats. They're all luxury. Every single one are luxury. And I just smile. Yeah. I'm like, surely somebody somewhere is going to come up with a better word than, luxury.
Super deluxe. Super deluxe.
That'll be the next evolution. What comes up? And if I don't use the word luxury, do you know what I mean? But you're right. It's not standing out. It's not making, everybody's using it. No one's standing out with that.
Yeah. And what we don't like salespeople. The great thing about social and the internet is we're able to, and the great thing about e-commerce is we're able to go on and buy stuff without talking to salespeople.
Yeah.
So anything to do with sales, it pushes us away. But anything that you start doing about yourself, your beliefs, then that brings you to closer. Now, what I would say also is that there may be people that listening to this and saying, well, I to be honest, I think that should have played Quidditch for England is childish. I think it's stupid, and that's brilliant. I'm really pleased if they do that, because if they met me, they wouldn't like me and they'd never buy anything from me.
Yeah, it's a qualifying statement.
So I've basically so we have all these salespeople running around trying to talk to people that basically will never like them.
Yeah,
but I've already qualified out all of the people that won't buy from me. So I know if someone comes to me, they probably think, yeah, it's a bit of fun. I quite enjoy that.
Yeah.
I bet he's all right. I bet he, it's a bit of, he even tells jokes on podcasts, so he's got to be okay.
Yeah.
It's about your personality. Now, you may not like that particular title, but you create a title that suits you.
Yeah.
And suits your beliefs and and this is about your why, not your what.
Yeah.
So
it's about your values, isn't it? It's about
yeah. It is, yeah. So we've had people and said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So we went on LinkedIn and found that there was 1 million people with that as a title. So she was in fact 1 in a million. There's two.
In fact, her title would have been better, 1 in a million.
Yeah. There's 250 best-selling authors. There's 250,000 best-selling authors and 450,000 thought leaders.
And do they all have the word creative somewhere in their title?
Bound to, yeah. Well, the classic salesperson is I'm an energetic, tenacious salesperson. We're all energetic. We're all tenacious. You are just the same as everybody else.
Yeah, just find.
And this is the problem. Since beginning of time, the problem that we have in sales is that we're just another salesperson.
Yeah, just another face. Not standing.
Just another salesperson, or we're just another website. And we need to. There has to be something that differentiates us. And having a title,
well, there is something that differentiates you. It's just that information has not been presented in a way that brings that out or connects with people.
Yeah. We often use an example of there's an insurance broker in Ipswich, I think. Which, if you're not from the UK, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And insurance broking is not the most interesting of subjects. And you could have things like insurance broker, fall asleep, but he has the title managing director of what I think is the best insurance brokers in Ipswich. Now, it's not the best title, but what it does, But what it does, you go, actually, I'm going to go and have a look at that.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually looking for an insurance broker in Ipswich, and he may be the right person for me.
Yeah.
Now, all he needs to do is get one person, because that's one person he's got over and above you.
Mm. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And so if I'm sort of thinking about this and I'm thinking, well, this is great. I like the idea of being active on social. I like the idea of starting conversations. I like the idea of social selling, social marketing. Because why would you not, right? And what's Joe put here? Someone's put in the comments, I'm changing my title on LinkedIn and Insta to should have done Princess Diana's wedding makeup.
Fantastic.
So let me tell you about Joe.
Look at that. Please connect to me. Please connect to me.
Yeah, I'm
please,
sure she will. Joe's lovely. Joe and I are just about to launch a website together, and Joe is fantastic. Love the bones off Joe. She's awesome. She's a makeup artist, and she specializes in doing makeup for ladies in their 50s and 60s and 70s. And great story, great background. Did the makeup for Princess Diana. Did the makeup, has done makeup for the who's who. All the celebrities. She's kind of on a list. And so I like this, Joe. I'm changing my title on LinkedIn and Insta to should have done Princess Diana's wedding makeup. That's brilliant.
Fantastic.
Great. Very, very good. Okay, so kind of lost my train of thought with Joe and Princess Diana. Anyway, it's so what do we if this is something that we want to do, right? If this is something that we sort of want to get more active and more involved with. When we talked in the pre-call, I asked you the same question really, and you came up with these sort of 3 pillars.
That's it. I was going to tell you that this is what you needed to ask me.
Yeah.
I was going to start asking you questions actually, Matt. But it's like
drive the conversation, Matt. Come on.
So the 3 things that you need to do. Mm-hmm. You need to have a shop window. So some people call it a personal brand, but it sounds a bit grand.
It's an overused word at the moment, I think, as well. Personal brand.
It's what, sorry?
An overused word.
It is, yeah. So you need a personal brand, you need a network, and you need content. So your personal brand is kind of what I've described already, which is your summary title, which is not about your job title or something. It's about your why.
Yeah.
Your summary again, it's about your why, not your company. This if you talk about LinkedIn, there's room already down in LinkedIn to talk about your company and what they do. Mm-hmm. But again, one of the things that we teach people to do is basically tell a story. So on my LinkedIn profile, if you go and look at it, there is a story from where I worked doing washing up at the Royal Oak and there is a village called Upton Snodsbury. And I worked there and got promoted to doing bar snacks. It's amazing, isn't it?
Good promotion.
Yes, from peeling sprouts to doing bar snacks.
Wow,
the world was my lobster. And so and you tell a story of all the things. Now, it's not about what your objectives were. It's not what your don't write, I went to this company and they're a bunch of idiots. We've all done jobs where we probably didn't work out, but you must have learned something.
Yeah.
So what is it that you learned during that job?
Okay.
And then also, you've got things like recommendations. Get people to recommend you. And don't write it for them. I mean, I wrote a recommendation for a mate of mine, and he said, "I can't." He says, "Is that what you think of me?" And I said, "Yes." He is like Red Adair of IT projects. I mean, they parachute him in, and he sorts them out. And he said, and I said, "Yeah, if anyone has an IT project that's going down the tubes, they need to hire you." And you would be amazed what people write about you. And that is your profile, and it's your shop window. And as I say, if you're walking down the shops and there's nothing in the window, or it looks boring, or it's salesy, people just walk past. But if you've got something like a nice title, people will come and look at your profile. And what you're trying to do is get them. Your profile is like your website, and get them to look at your profile and spend time there. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people go, "Well, I only want to write a paragraph because I can't be bothered to write more than a paragraph." That's not about you. It's about the person that's coming to read it. Yeah.
Think of it as a shop window.
Yeah. And the longer that they're spending time on your profile, they're not looking at your competitors.
Yeah.
The next thing you need is a network. So most people, for example, on LinkedIn have their network is ex-colleagues and recruitment consultants, which is kind of interesting, but it doesn't really get you much.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to put put your territory online. So all the people that you're trying to sell to, all of your customers, all of the people that might influence your customers, people that you respect, and all people that the great thing about a network is that those people know and love you, and what they will do is that they hopefully will propagate your content.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people. So I may post content which gets engagement, but I get people my content. Your network into your network's network.
Tim, you broke up for 2 seconds.
Which is where you need to be. Yeah. Okay, so what happens is that what you're doing is that your network's network. And then you bring that in. Have I gone quiet?
Yeah, sorry that you're back now. It's sort of, I don't know, it's just been a bit weird.
Okay,
you're
sorry.
Jumping in and out. You're doing that kind of thing.
Okay, right.
So let's start. So we've done our personal brand, and you talked about building your network and having people who would share and promote your content out on your network.
Yes. So you're in effect selling into your network's network.
Okay.
And that's what you need to do. What you're going to do is start pulling your network's network into your own network.
Okay.
I'm looking at your face in terms of whether that. Are you still hearing me?
Yeah. No, I'm very focused right now. This is my focus face. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Fine. So for example, again with the power of networks, what happens is people will find that and then you have a conversation with them. So for example, someone shared a piece of content recently. I wasn't even connected to her. She's from Mexico, and we just had a conversation. And don't forget, because somebody is in your network, you're not necessarily selling to them. Mm-hmm. They may refer you on.
Yeah.
Because I had someone basically coming to me, some sales expert coming to me yesterday, basically gave me a list of their products. Now, I actually had someone I was going to refer to her. Mm-hmm. But because she gave me a list of products, I thought, you obviously don't know what selling's about. So you obviously don't know what relationships about and what network's about. So I'm not going to refer you. So she lost a sale.
Wow.
So your network is the saying is your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. It is, you need to connect with people.
So your network's network, I like that. Think about your network's network. That's sort of where you're reaching out to, which is great. And they're going to refer you and sort of, and I liked your comment, not everybody in your network is ready to buy, but maybe they are ready to refer. And I assume, bringing it back to you and your business, you said you don't do any cold calling or any of that sort of advertising. All your business is word of mouth marketing. This is your network referring you to their networks.
Well, there's various different ways that we prospect. So we will use social, and we will target certain people. Mm-hmm. It may be that what we do is that we connect with them. And we do that in a non-spammy way. So we don't connect with them and say, I want to sell you shit, because obviously they'll just block you. Yeah. So we build a conversation with people. Or it may be that what we do is that we go out and they're posting on social. What we do is that we may like their stuff.
Yeah.
Or what we do is that we will say, that's a really interesting article, and get them into a conversation.
Yeah.
Because what you're trying to do is, with all this, is start a conversation.
Yeah.
And using social as a way of starting that conversation.
And to be fair, I'm thinking about my LinkedIn profile. There's out of all the hundreds of people that have connected with me over the last 2 months, only one of them has actually tried to do that. Just start a conversation. Everybody else was like,
buy my share.
Yeah, pretty much. Or just, they wanted another number on their follower count or whatever. There's not that real engagement. And I think it's quite fascinating, what you're sort of talking about here.
There's a problem at the moment. There's a number of people that will say, oh yeah, I can get you an additional 2,000 connections. Mm. Connections are not what you want. What you need is a network. Mm-hmm. And the next thing is content. And the thing about content is that there's two things. One is that people will find you because of content. They're looking for an expert that can help them. Mm. They're looking for a person, not a corporate robot. And the content also enables you to keep your network warm. Mm. Because what you never know when you might say, do you know, I was on a podcast with that guy from Matt in Liverpool. He's connected to somebody at GlaxoSmithKline who I want to talk to. So I could go to Matt and say, Matt, do you remember that podcast I did where I told a joke? And you go, yeah. I said, do you know Brian at GlaxoSmithKline? Do you know, I went to school with him. Did you? Do you mind having a conversation with him? Can you set up a call with him? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I have no problem. And that's the difference between, you know, if you go to somebody and go, oh, yeah, I'm Tim Hughes. And they go, I don't know who you are. So, but we're connected on LinkedIn. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know who you are. And that's the difference. You know, the network and the contact.
Yeah.
And again, the content is about inspiring and educating people, not necessarily saying how great your company is. So we did an experiment recently with one of our clients, and we got the salespeople to post their corporate content, of which they got no engagement. We then taught the salespeople to blog, and we got them to post blogs.
Yeah. So
this one guy's posted a blog about, I'll give you an example, just 300 words, and it's about how in COVID-19 he's got an extra 90 minutes a day because it takes him 45 minutes to commute, and he's able to see his children. He's got one baby, I think, you know, one on 3, and one's like in the cart and stuff. And he said it's really great. And last time we looked, he'd got like 80 likes. So the average person on LinkedIn has 500 connections. That's 80 times 500 because it would have gone through their network.
Yeah.
That's, you know, if you send that out through an email, that would be a big email list.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that will have seen that content. And then what we've done is that we've taught him to go through and say, right, all of those people that have made a comment, some will be in your network, some will be out of your network. What that will do is that you've actually now got a reason to go and talk to them.
Yeah.
So all the people that are not in your network, you've got a reason to go to them and say, thanks for liking my article. Hope you enjoyed it. We obviously have something in common. Can we connect? Mm-hmm. Not salesy. And you'll probably get 80, 90% connection rate. You've pulled them into your network. All the people that were already in your network have liked it, said, we obviously have something in common. Why don't we get on the phone and have a chat? And immediately you're able to go through that. And because they've read something about you, they already think they know something about you. And
so the content you're putting out there then is personal content. It's not salesy content. It's just kind of, it's content that you think your network or your network's going to connect with. So the guy that wrote the blog post about an extra, you know, hour and a half with his kids, well, that's going to resonate with everyone that's got kids, isn't it, really?
Absolutely, yeah. So one of my team put something out on Saturday. He's in Aberdeen. He was on the beach with his 60-year-old son. And he kind of said, I'm with my 60-year-old son, and we're talking about what's the future? What is the future? And put that out, and it's gone ballistic. So if you put corporate stuff out, buy my stuff, we're number one, no one's interested.
Yeah.
Put stuff about yourself. Put stuff, you know, I write about how to social sell. Mm-hmm. So if you follow me on Twitter, you come to or connect with me on LinkedIn. We've posted over 1,000 blogs since we've been going in the last nearly 4 years. You know, I've done over 110 podcasts, and it's all educational stuff. Mm-hmm. And you can learn stuff. Yeah. You don't need to buy anything from me. It's all for free. Exactly the same with this podcast. This isn't about selling your stuff. If people are interested, they'll go and look you up.
Yeah, they'll get in touch.
Yeah. And so that's the power of content. Mm-hmm. We had a guy on it. We teach people how to blog, salespeople how to blog, and we had this guy, and he said, I'm not doing it. And we said, why not? He said, I think it's a waste of time. And we said, we'll give it a go. And the thing is, you can't clip him around the ear because he's a black belt 3 down at black belt 5 down at 3, much less. Yeah. So by the time you get to slap him, he's broken your arm. and he sat down and he wrote this thing, and he said for Christmas my wife bought me an Apple Watch, And he said, I didn't actually think I really wanted one, but I then started setting it up, and I kept all kinds of data. I collect my heart rate, and I collect my number of steps, and I've actually become pretty obsessed with the amount of data that I collect. And he said, and then I realized that actually this is all about big data and how big data can actually transform the way that you work, but also transform the way that I live my life. Anyway, I really love my Apple Watch, and I'm really glad that my wife bought it for me. Now, that's a very simple blog. Now, he sells big data systems for an IT company, and what he's done is he's weaved that into the conversation,
the narrative,
into the narrative. So it's not salesy, it's not an advert. It's something. If you've got an Apple Watch, I don't have one, but if you've got one, or a Fitbit, my partner, she's always going on about how many steps we've walked and stuff like that. And we all of a sudden we're going along. And she's like, well, we've done 10,000 steps. Well, have we? And so, if you write about that, it's something that you understand.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's just a simple way of writing. And in fact, all salespeople are some of the best communicators in the world. And we can write, and we can. Yeah,
I like it because
thank you.
It's good because one of the questions that you, again, just bringing it back to e-commerce, one of the things that I've noticed amongst e-commerce startups is they try and be like the corporates. They want their website to look like, Amazon, or they want it to look like Nike or whatever, but their website looks bleak and cold because of a lack of content. Because of a lack of information, and there's nothing about them. And the thing that distinguishes, I think, if you're doing an e-commerce business, if you're starting up an e-commerce business, the thing that I think you need to plaster all over that site, apart from the product, is you and your values and what you stand for and your beliefs and why you're doing what you're doing and how you plan on changing the world through this particular website. And people will connect with that. And you can, there's a lady in our office who buys lights from a website, a small business, small family business. Michelle, she's lovely. And the reason she chose that company to buy stuff from was she followed someone on Instagram who worked there, who kept posting pictures of their dog.
Yeah.
And it's and now they have and now whenever I buy that kind of product, I have to buy it from that website because that's what Michelle insists I do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And you can do this with e-commerce. You can build your personal brand. You can grow your network, and you can share content about the products, about what you're passionate about. Joe, who wants to, Princess Diana's makeup artist, she is brilliant at that. And just sharing that passion and that content. And this is something you should definitely be doing, right? Not just the salespeople, but if anybody should be doing this sort of stuff.
People buy people, and what people want in the sales and marketing process is a human. It's humanity that we buy, and I totally agree with you. We found some research recently where there was they analysed 10,000 websites, and the conclusion was they were all the same,
and none of them stood out. And this comes back to everyone's got the same. Everyone's a best-selling author. Everyone's
they're all They're all using the same WordPress
Shopify theme or whatever.
And as an individual, I've built up a following on social. From a corporate perspective, we can't get above 20,000 followers because it's a company account. But people are interested in you. And I quite often get people asking, well, should I share personal stuff? Well, absolutely. If I share pictures about where we're going and what we're doing, and because it's in amongst all of that stuff about social selling, you need to have something else. Here's a picture of me in Bushy Park. Here's me. We went cycling last week. We took the day off and we cycled into London to see if it was still there. And here's a picture of me outside the Parliament building and stuff. And it may sound boring on a podcast, but actually what it does, it shows that you're a human being.
Yeah, it does.
And it shows that you do stuff, and it shows that you've got interests.
People like it.
And as we know, people do. Yeah. And back to the, if they don't like if you don't like dogs, then you were probably never, the website's not for you.
Yeah. Find another company. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, social is about being yourself and being, and you'll find that will generate business for you.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Listen, Tim, I'm aware of time. And I could carry this conversation on because I'm sure I could pick your brains and find out all kinds of good stuff. My last question for you, is there, in sort of closing, any final wisdom or thoughts you have for someone who's in e-commerce around this whole idea that maybe we've not covered yet?
I don't think so. They've got to be on social,
mm-hmm.
and they've got to be themselves, and they've not got to worry that if you think, as soon as you try and make money from social, you've got the wrong mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things in life where if you go on and be yourself, the money will come.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people that go on and say, I'm going to be the next guru about this, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
After about 6 months, because they're just not able to keep up with that level of consistency. And you just need to be yourself and be consistent.
So be yourself, be consistent, show up.
Yes. Yeah, show up, yeah.
Be where your customers are. That's how you choose your social network.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
No, that's wonderful. Very good, very practical stuff. And actually, I think I've come away from it just even thinking about my own social media, just kind of thinking, yeah, I can do this in a different way and do it better. And I should crack on with it. How many, I guess for one of my questions for you, Tim, is how many hours a day do you spend on social media? I'm just kind of curious.
I spend all day in social media because that's
what you do.
Yeah. We often get this as a question. So there's two answers to this. One is, to make a success of it, I reckon you need to spend 30 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that social media is free. It's only your time that you've got to put in.
Mm-hmm.
And we often get, well, I don't have time for that. Well, it's a bit like New Year's resolutions. We're all busy people, and what we do every New Year is we add things to our busyness. And what happens is we don't do those things because we're already busy. So you've got to take something off.
Yeah.
So this will only work if you stop doing something, if you take something on. And Tony Robbins and all of those people will tell you that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And
you can't outsource it. I've tried that in the past.
No, it doesn't work. It's not authentic.
No.
And in fact, that goes against the LinkedIn rules. So you can end up with nothing.
Well, it goes against everything that you've pretty much talked about tonight, isn't it? In terms of being you and being authentic.
It does.
You can never outsource that. And people buying people rather than a version of you.
Yes. But the thing is that, I don't have time for this, which is, this is the way, this is modern selling. This is the way that we sell in 2020. I remember talking to a guy who came on our course, and I said, what did you do this morning? He said, I spent the morning cold calling. I said, how did that go? He says, well, I didn't get anything. I just left some voicemails. And I said, what happened to the voicemails? He said, they'll never ring me back. I said, so, maybe you need to drop something, and maybe you need to drop that.
Yeah.
And wasting your time doing that, and actually concentrate on something which actually will work for you.
Yeah.
This is the way. Sometimes social selling is called modern selling. This is the way that people buy now, and this is where you need to be from a selling perspective. This is in 2020. This is what you need to be doing from a selling perspective.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's wonderful. Tim, listen, how do people get hold of you if they do want to reach out, if they do want to connect? What's the best way to sort of touch base with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Timothy Hughes. So Timothy's Timothy,
mm-hmm.
and Hughes is Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on Twitter, which is Timothy_Hughes. And I'm on Instagram as well. But my email is tim@DLAignite.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Joe's just put a message here saying, thank you, Tim. She's on it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Connect with me, please. And anybody out there, don't think that you can't connect with me, or but please send a message when you send a connection request saying you saw me on Matt's podcast, thought I was amazing. And
we all did.
You can say if I was shit, I don't mind. But connect with me and say where you just put some context about where you saw me. It just helps, because if I get an awful lot of people connecting to me, and it just helps to sort through the wheat from the chaff. But please connect with me. Twitter, LinkedIn. Happy.
Great.
And don't forget my book.
And we'll link to that actually in the
social selling techniques to influence buyers and changemakers. Available on Amazon
copy of it there?
Worldwide.
Can you show us the
I
cover?
do actually. Funny, it just
funny I should say
appears.
that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Right next to me.
Brilliant. Good plug. Definitely check out Tim's book. I will link to that on Amazon, and I will link to all of the social profiles that you've mentioned in the show notes, so you can check those out on the website. Tim, I just want to say a big thank you. Really, really appreciate you being here. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. It's been great having you on the show. And in closing, Jo has just popped up with another comment. She says, I would never say the word shit. I don't swear. Ask Matt. She swears a lot. Anyway, great to talk to you. Thanks so much, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers. Bye.
So there you go. That was my interview with Tim. Wasn't he great? And I like the banter between him and Jo. Knowing them both, they will get on very well, let me tell you. But yes, it was great insight into social selling. And so I hope you've got a lot out of it. I've got a few things in my head that I need to do now to my social media and get on that a little bit better. When I suggested that to Tim, he was nodding his head. Yes, you do, Matt. I feel like there is things that I should be doing. So if you're like me and you've not quite done it because you know what, you've dabbled at it and you've just kind of done what everybody else is doing and it's not really worked, just listen again to the show. Go download the show notes, get in touch with Tim and do it differently and start to stand out and connect with people and build those relationships and let us know what happens. We would love to hear your stories. So all that's left for me to say is thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. The content is free and we deliver it on a weekly basis direct to you so you can learn more and more about e-commerce, about how to grow and develop your own successful online business, which is just fabulous and fantastic. Make sure you also subscribe to us on Facebook Live because like Jo, you can join in the conversation and connect with people, which is always great. Just hit the notification button and you will get that whenever it comes up. It's been great chatting with Tim. I love this. I love chatting with people about e-commerce, people who know an awful lot more about this whole topic than I do. It's always great. I always learn something and I'm sure you did too. Make sure you stay tuned. I'll be back very soon with another e-commerce podcast. Got some great guests lined up. Do come and join us as we carry on our journey into learning more and more about e-commerce. All of that said, goodbye for now. We will see you again very soon.
You've been listening to the e-commerce podcast with Matt Edmundson. Join us next time for more interviews, tips, and tools for building your business online.